where is the gentleman who asked your head? Why? All right. You now I know that you are Father Nazir's uncle. Right? Father Sahib is here too? Father Nazir's son? No. Okay.
मेरे भतीजे मुझसे तकरीबन 1.5-2 साल बड़े हैं।
You seem to be quite conscious of this fact. You're afraid people may take him to be younger than you. No, I mean older than you. Is that so? Why are you making this point? This I can't understand.
No, ये मेरे ताया भाई थे, तो उनके इंसान।
No, the point is that you are conscious of the fact that people may consider you to be older than he is. Is that right? So every time you have to explain. Now the question you asked, as I understood it, pertained to a situation which arises during the advent of a prophet. And it is perhaps a constant situation applicable to every prophet. That although the prophets come with some evidence from Allah and with some miracles sometimes and some extraordinary evidence in their support of their truth, yet they are rejected, and rejected so mercilessly and cruelly. And perhaps what bothered you most was the rejection of Jesus Christ, or Moses, was it Moses? Moses, yes. That although Moses should have been accepted, he had every reason to be accepted by his people in toto. He should have been received with open arms, so to say. Yet he was again rejected. Why this happens? Is that so? So now, the fundamentals should be understood. And those fundamentals will be applicable to every situation, every similar situation, I mean. And by fundamentals, I mean, first you must understand the human nature and its behavior, which is a constant which never changes. And in relation to this, the whole phenomena will be manifestly understood by you. The human nature is such that when a prophet comes, they are already bad, these people. And they do not want to bow to an authority. By nature they have become rebellious, and this is why they have already rejected the previous law in which they believe. Knowing that that law is correct and has been revealed from Allah, and believing in it, yet they do not act accordingly. So that unrighteousness, as I mentioned yesterday, is the fundamental cause, or maybe a symptom of their conduct and behavior. A people who believe in a thing yet do not act accordingly positively prove that they are not ready to bow to any authority, even to that authority to which they have themselves of volition succumbed before and have bowed down. Yet in practice they have rejected it. So how can such a people accept a new authority, which is doubtful as compared to the previous one? As far as the belief in the previous authority is concerned, they are born with that belief. Yet in every practice, in every reality, they have already rejected it. For example, now consider the case of the Muslims of today. They believe fully in the truth of Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They believe fully in the truth of the Holy Quran, but do they act upon the Holy Quran? Is it an Islam which is only observed in television in Pakistan and newspapers and government statements, or is it an Islam which is seen in the streets of Pakistan and houses of Pakistan and the hearts of Pakistan and the bloodstreams of Pakistan and anywhere else? Just quoting an example, being from Pakistan, it is a name which comes to me first. But if you look in detail, you will find that the whole life system is totally divorced from Islamic values. There are people who say that Islam is true, who believe in the Holy Prophet's highest station, not only as a prophet but as highest station. Yet they do not follow him in practice. Their houses are not Muslims, their Waqda is not Muslim, the Patwar Khanas are not Muslims, the revenue system is not Muslim. Everything you observe, even the courts, in their behavior and conduct have been. One of the judges, for instance, once came to Rabwa and delivered a lecture. By judges I mean one of the Supreme Court judges. And he addressed the college students, and there he revealed that of the experience he had gained during his tenure as justice in every capacity. And also he said, and also the experience I have as my career as a lawyer and advocate prior to my becoming justice, makes me believe that of all the people who come for evidence under oath, there is not a single one of which I can say he is truthful. Not a single one in the whole experience of his life. As a magistrate, as an advocate, as well as a justice. And he says sometimes what they say is true, but they are not witnesses to that. And sometimes they are witnesses, but what they say is not true. So in every case, whether the case in itself is true or false, the witnesses always are false. And they bear witness in the name of Allah, in the name of all that they hold revered and everything which they respect. So this is the state of affairs. Now, the psychological situation of this nation is applicable to every psychological situation before this time. This is why I have brought you to this present age, because this age you understand better. Now, knowing full well that having accepted an authority, having born with that belief, they have practically rejected that authority. How can a sane man expect them to start bowing before a new authority, while the previous one has not yet been accepted? In essence, I mean. In words, it is accepted. So this is the fundamental to which I refer. The previous has to be first digested, then the question of the second one would arise. Now it reminds me of a joke in the Punjabi language, which it is perhaps would be difficult for me to translate, but it's a very good joke. And it is applicable to this situation. So to relax the atmosphere, let me try to translate it into English as best as I can. In Punjabi, we have a custom. In Punjab, we have a custom that if villagers, the men from some villages visit their sisters who are married to some other relatives or somewhere in some other village, and they pay a visit to their sister, they take a sort of sweet along with them which is called pinni. Made of so many various things, some sweet thing. Let's leave it at that. Pinni is a rounded laddu shape, about the size of an apple, let's say. So this is a common custom. They take the pinnies along. Otherwise, the sisters take a strong exception to their visit. Now, there was a Marasi who was a hunchback, slightly bowed the head. And his sister was suffering from goiter, quite large glands on both sides of the neck. Now this picture has to be kept in mind before you can understand the joke which comes. The Marasi was a hunchback and the sister was suffering from goiter. Now this hunchback went to his sister without pinnies. And the sort of makeshift arrangement for carrying things in the Punjab is called a guttery. They don't have suitcases and these modern devices. They just put things together on a sheet and wind round and some sort of arrangement. I don't know how they wrap it, but there is a special way of doing it. So that is called, the final package is called a guttery. So the sister observed when he knocked at the door and she opened it, she observed that there was no guttery with him. So the sister jokingly referred to the hunchback's bag and said, "Dear brother, the guttery you are carrying on your back, please hand it over to me. You must be tired after all this traveling." So she knew he hadn't got anything, so it was a joke on his being a hunchback. He said, "The guttery you are carrying on your back, please hand it over to me." So he was also a Marasi, of course. So he retorted immediately, "Swallow the first ones before." Indicating to the goiter, You have not swallowed the penny already in your throat, visible, and you are asking for more. So this is the state of affairs of such people, who have not swallowed the pennies they already have in their throats. So how could they ask for more? They have no right, and they are not going to accept anything. So this is the fundamental psychological situation which prevails when a prophet comes. So they reject him, and reject him cruelly. They say that, in effect they say that one is enough and we have already thrown the yoke of that one. Who are you to come and dictate terms to us? And this is exactly what the Holy Quran has related in reference to the people who rejected previous prophets. He says, you want to come and dictate terms to us as to how we deal with our own properties, with our own income, and with our own behavior. You become the masters of our behavior, our income and everything. So go to wherever you please, but we are not going to accept you. But Allah, when He decides that a people must accept, ultimately wins, because no one can fight with Allah. So after so much rejection, after so much hullabaloo, after so much persecution and torture of the innocent, ultimately they break down. And when they break down ultimately and accept that prophet, another phenomena begins. Who is it? Please don't ask. Tell him to please keep quiet, whoever it is. So, the second phase begins, and that again is a fundamental of the same nature, but will not be recognizable to you unless I explain it. Once they accept the prophet, they begin to raise his status in reaction. Now let's call it something else, not direct reaction, but once they have ultimately bowed down, let's say, they begin to love him so much that previously they were extremists in hate, now they become extremists in love. And they go on raising his station beyond what Allah had appointed. Previously, their attitude was that you are subhuman. You are not worthy of being called a human being. Now they tell him that you are superhuman. You are not one of us. You are far above us. And they go on doing the same thing to him. So both the first attitude and the second attitude are incorrect. But when you further examine it, you will come to find out that the effect is the same. The sum total of this behavior comes out to be exactly the same. Why? Because in the first place, when they rejected him, they said, you are subhuman, so you are below us, how can we accept you? Having once accepted it, their inner self told them that you are still big men. You never bowed to a man, a fellow being. You bowed to something superior, who was made like this. So their ana, their ego, remains intact. They are as headstrong as they previously were. Now this phenomenon begins not immediately after the acceptance of a prophet. This is why I said, perhaps it is wrong to say that it was a reaction. It's not a reaction. Those people who accept the prophet, they in their lifetime do not show this reaction. Even those who come as the next generation and those who follow as the third, their behavior is generally right. But when people tend to become wrong, and when again they begin to deviate from the teachings and throw the yoke of the teachings away, then this phenomena begins. So fundamentally, the phenomena has the same root of denial, and it will develop into a denial. I'll tell how. Let me first make it further clear for those who are not following me, because it's a different turn I have taken now. In the second instance, those who have ultimately accepted the Prophet accept him as he is, without distortion. And it is they who have truly submitted to the will of Allah. So their acts are in accordance with their beliefs. But in the second or third, or after the second or third generation maybe, or a bit further away, it is not a razor sharp edge that you can draw between. Some people begin to go astray before, some later on, but generally speaking, people as such, in majority, become distorted later on in their approach and behavior. So whenever they do, the reason again is their lack of practice of what they preach. Their lack of there being a parallax between their claims and their actions. They believe in something and do a different thing altogether. Once they begin to do that, the same old disease recurs and revisits them, but in a different form. Satan this time tells them that man whom your father had rejected as a small man, you have accepted him, in fact, because he was not a man at all. He was Superman. He was son of God. He was brother to God. He was equal to God. He shared the kingdom of heavens and earth with God. And he was one of them. Ultimately, the whole issue is confused, and they say that we bow down because he was different, he was not a man at all, but to a man we are not going to bow down. So now they are set for the next stage. That again is a stage of denial. And in this process, sometimes another phenomena intermingles. And that is the phenomena again of rejection, but of a different, slightly different expression, I should say. A different manifestation of their rejection. It so happens that whenever a prophet passes away, he promises that another prophet would come. And this is in fact Misaqun Nabiyyin, the oath of allegiance which Allah took from all the prophets. And that when a prophet passes away, before that he declares to the people that somebody is going to come and you must accept him. Now, that somebody is sometimes referred to in parables. Sometimes he says that I am going to come myself. Why? Because he wants to stress that if you reject him, you will reject me. By I, he means somebody having a total representation, a total authority from that person who is predicting it. So this is again misunderstood gradually. But when people begin, enter that mood which I have already told you, the mood of rejection I call it, then their belief in these prophecies is distorted accordingly, very clearly and in very positive terms. With the result that whatever was said metaphorically is taken to be a literal thing. Whatever is told to them in parables, that is expected to be in the real life terms, not in parables. So they miss the point altogether again. Now they are expecting somebody to come in accordance with their own desire that he should not be a man but should be a superman. Because the previous prophet, they have already begun to be a superman. So the next one should also come as a superman. Something superman or beyond man. So their expectations are all disoriented, totally disoriented. They are expecting someone to come, but not from the same direction from where he is to come. They are expecting someone to come, not as a man this time, but as a God, or God's Son, to descend from heaven, and so on and so forth. Or having grown feathers and wings and so on. So the picture they paint of that person who had passed before them is also superhuman or beyond human beings, and the one who is to come also has adopted the same picture. So the stage for rejection is set, because such a thing would never happen. So they have already decided that whenever the next man would come, we will reject him, because we will be armed with an expectation which can never be fulfilled. The same thing happened exactly at the time of Hazrat Jesus Christ, peace be upon him. People before him were told that Elijah, a biblical prophet, had ascended to heaven, bodily, and it was written in Bible. Having ascended to heaven, he was waiting there. In fact, it is also said that he was sitting on a chariot when, chariot and all, he was ascended to heaven. He was taken up to heaven. So he would descend, it was said, on the same chariot on which he disappeared, and would come to the earth once again, and he would come and declare that the time of Messiah is close by. He is about to come. So prepare yourself, open the doors of your hearts to accept him. This would be his call to the people for the preparation of coming of Messiah. So they were expecting him to come, descend, but they misunderstood the whole episode. They forgot that previously the same type of language had been used by prophets earlier to them. earlier to him. And what happened was that only a humble human being appeared, never a superhuman man. No one before Jesus Christ or before Elijah had ever descended from heavens. Everyone of the known history, recorded by Bible itself, had been born of ordinary human beings, of women. So they forgot the realities of life and entered the myth and misunderstood the message. And this is what they wanted to, because as I told you, psychologically they wanted excuses to for rejection. So this was a good excuse. And it was effectively used against Jesus Christ. The New Testament tells us that they started mocking with the followers of Jesus Christ, peace be upon him, and told them that they would be ready to believe. But please produce Elijah first, or Elijah, or how it is pronounced, I don't know exactly. Is it Elijah or Elijah? Elijah, yes. So Elijah has to come to produce Elijah. Where is Elijah? Of course you believe in Bible and you don't deny the authenticity of Bible. So follow that Bible and produce that Elijah from heaven and we'll follow your prophet, okay. So they referred to Jesus Christ. Now they told Jesus Christ of all this joke, etc. and wanted an explanation. So Jesus Christ, according to the biblical version, referred to John the Baptist. And referring to him, he said, he is the Elijah who was to descend from heaven. Believe it or not. I mean, these are not exact words of the Bible, but this is the essence of the words of the Bible, and this is exactly what is told by Jesus Christ to his disciples. But I have understood what they joke about, but my answer is that Elijah they are expecting has come in the form of John the Baptist. And they have heard him saying that the days of the kingdom of heaven and the coming of Messiah are nearby. Prepare yourself. So he is the same person. So when the Jews, their ulama and their rabbis and the big people heard this reply, what would have been their reaction? They would have turned their backs in mockery and derision and even laughed louder. They would have, what a stupid answer, according to them. Somebody we are expecting from heaven to descend bodily, whose name is different, whose parents' names are different, and an entirely different personality which is born of this earth, of an ordinary woman, he is being told, he is being claimed to be the same person who has descended to heaven long, long ago. Now, as I told you earlier, last night, the situations repeat. And this situation, because it was applicable to the first Messiah, it had to be applicable to the second Messiah. And this is exactly what we find ourselves. We find ourselves in the same position as the disciples and the followers of Hazrat Jesus Christ, peace be upon him, found themselves 1900 and some years, about 2000 years before. Now, if you read the non-Ahmadiyya literature, you will be surprised at the similarities of the attacks. They laugh at Hazrat Muhammad, they dwell at this subject at length, and sometimes they have been noted to ask the Ahmadi debaters at the time when debates were permitted and allowed. That look here, tell us what is the name of the founder of the Ahmadiyya community, this is Mirza Ghulam Ahmad. So all that, everybody remember this. What was the name of his mother? And they tell Chirag Mudi, say, okay. And what was the name of the father? And what was the name of the first Messiah? They say, Jesus, and so on and so forth. and then they have a good law. Any similarity between them? And they say, where was, according to the prediction, he was to descend, nazar, the word nazul is used, and he was not descended. And still you want us to believe? Do you consider us as fools? How can we believe? So the situation is as difficult, or made as difficult by them themselves, that they find themselves in an impossible situation to believe in the newcomer. But if these facts are enough to justify their denial, then the same facts should be enough for the denial of the first Messiah. Because the situation in which he found was exactly the same. If the argument of literally producing the person who was predicted is valid, then it was valid in the first place as well. So, this is the interesting situation. With the same weapon that they try to destroy the second Messiah, they also destroy the first Messiah. If they defend the first, they have to defend the second as well, because the weapons are the same and the mode of attack is the same. So this is what I meant, that people are fundamentally, basically, not in a psychological mood to accept the new one, because they have already rejected in principle and in effect and in practice the one in whom they believe. So this duality of their nature has to be made manifest and clearly known to them themselves, that you are false people. So a trial begins. A prophet comes, and they are given excuses, of course. Like the excuses they were given to the earlier people. And they reject him. And the criminal situation is made manifest. And this is what Allah says by telling us the Yamiz al-Khabisa min al-Tayyib. The office of prophethood serves the purpose of making the filthy and the pure appear completely separate and removed from each other. As the sieve does the thing, you know. The filth is removed and the pure grain is left in the sieve. So, this is the process of Yamiz al-Khabisa. So, whoever have already reached a stage of denial, they only get themselves revealed and made naked. Otherwise, they have a cover of religion. When a prophet comes, that cover is removed. So this is what I said, that I'll tell you this last night. I promised you I would explain the fundamentals. Once you understand the fundamentals, the riddle of the religion, the religious phenomena of prophethood, is solved everywhere in the world. This phenomena is equally applicable to Hinduism, to Zoroastrianism, to any other religion you can think of, to Buddhism. The same thing happened with them. Prophets came, they were rejected, later on they were accepted. For a while, this situation remained constant. Then they were begun to be elevated beyond their real status. And they were elevated to a station that their coming again could not take place in reality. So, a sort of, stalemate was created. And those religions were left behind in history and no reformer could appear in them. Because the person they were expecting was to come in the form of a god, in the form of a myth, while before that it had never happened. All who come as a humble servant of Allah. and nothing more. So people don't recognize them. This is exactly where we find ourselves in the juncture of history. The same thing is repeating itself, and the same eyes are rejecting the phenomena, knowing that it has happened so many times before. I hope you understand this. Just a moment. There is a poem which I promised, not promised, but I decided to play here. It is a recorded poem. What happened was that Mansoor, is he here? Mr. Mansoor, Biti Saab's son. Alright, when he is present, then I'll have it played. Once, a few weeks ago, he asked me the question that after my poem of Jalsa Salana, if I had the opportunity of composing another one. At that time, I had not. But I sort of promised him that if I do, he will know. Now, in the meantime, what happened was that I received a poem from one of my nieces from Rabwa, depicting the state of people of Rabwa in my absence. It's a very pathetic poem. And one of the lines in that poem was, it's a line of some old poet. Musa palat ke wadiye Ayman udas hai. That was a sort of Tara Misra. You know, the line given as a model on which a new poem is written. So in response to her poem, I composed a poem and sent to Rabwa for it to be recorded by somebody who has a good voice and sent back to me in the form of a cassette. So that has come. But because Mansoor was the first person who raised this issue, who wanted to hear very much, so tomorrow if he is present, inshallah, we'll play it tomorrow. Right? And in the meantime, the gentleman, the boy who wanted to ask this, Mansoor, you please.
There's a question about the promise which I received that anyone differentiates between me and Prophet Muhammad, or all of me. Could you explain the meaning, please? Yes, thank you.
The question is that in one of his verses, Hazrat Masih Maud says that whoever differentiates between me and Prophet Muhammad has not understood me, nor he has understood Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Now, this is, in one way, it is a tafsir of a verse of the Holy Quran which says, La nufarriqu baina ahadim min rusuli. We do not discriminate between one prophet and another. And this is the voice of Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his followers. In that context it is said, Aman ar-Rasulu bima unzila ilayhi min rabbihi wal mu'minun. The Prophet Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam has believed in Allah and those who have believed along with him. And then what they say is being recited. So they say, La nufarriqu baina ahadin min rusul. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, along with his followers, is saying that we do not make any discrimination between any prophet whom Allah sends. So, while this is a known fact that there are prophets who are lower in order and there are prophets who are higher in order, and it is not meant that every prophet stands on the same station, on the same elevation. To that, there is another verse referring to that subject. And that is, Tilka Rusulu Fazzalna Ba'dahum ala ba'd. These are prophets. We have raised the status of some over some others, and they don't enjoy the same status in our sight. So when Hazrat Masih Maud said that, because in other places he has very clearly mentioned that he is a very humble servant of Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam. सब हमने उससे पाया, शाहिद है तू खुदाया, वो जिसने हक दिखाया, वो रहनुमाई. Everything which we have received at the hands of our Lord, Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The one who showed us the path of truth, the truth, that is Allah. It is He. So how could He claim that He is equal? So whatever meaning of this verse is, it is not to be interpreted in the sense of equality. So the only other alternative is this, that the Holy Quran itself says that as far as the office of prophethood is concerned, no prophet should be discriminated from another, however big or small that prophet is. Because they all come from Allah. And if you say we are going to believe in big prophets and we are going to reject the small ones, then this is what is described as the phenomena of Satan, or Shaitaniyat, I should have said, Satanism in the Holy Quran. The first lesson which was given to us in the form of a parable by the Holy Quran is this, that when Adam was created, Satan refused to bow to him. When Allah asked why, he said, I am superior and he is inferior. So without giving a logical answer, Allah rejected him. Apparently there is no logical answer. Allah doesn't prove him to be wrong, and he straight away rejects him. Because in his own word he had admitted that you have sent him and you have appointed him. You wanted me to bow to him. So when a superior being appoints an inferior being over comparatively superior being, whoever is the ultimate, he has to be bowed to. That is the phenomenon. So as I told, the Holy Quran does not waste words. Sometimes even in objections there are answers. So the rejection of his plea was already in his own words when he addressed Allah and told him that although you have appointed Adam and you have asked me to bow to him, yet because I see him inferior as compared to me, so I am not going to bow to him. In that address, there was an inherent rejection of this address itself. That if that be true, that the superior beings must order the inferior beings and the inferior must obey the superior, then why are you rejecting my order? I am your superior, if Adam is not. So that is the philosophy of non-discrimination between prophets. However small and inferior a prophet may appear to you, because he has come from Allah, no distinction, no discrimination will be made between a prophet and another. That is one explanation of that verse. And another is, and that is an explanation relating to the world of love, which ordinary mullah and the dry mullah simply can never understand. So for him, the best answer would be this, a true, logical, dry, simple answer. But in reality that verse belongs to the realm of love. What he wants to say is that I have lost my whole being in love of Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa. I no longer exist. So when I have bowed down to him so completely, whatever I say is what he has said before. Whatever I do is what he has done before. So anybody who wants to draw a line between me and him has not understood me, nor has he understood Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa. That is the true import of this verse. Tomorrow, inshallah, the rest. Because you are leaving tomorrow, So I will permit you to say what you please. अच्छा
सबके दिल की
Now let me say this thing. The first 6 verses are in the language of Rabba people as addressed to me. But the verses are mine. But having understood the message of my niece, I couldn't repeat her poem, of course, so I translated the feelings of Rabba people in my own words, basing my information on what was conveyed to me by my niece. So the first 6 verses are in the language of Ahle Rabba, people of Rabba. The second 8 which begin with the verse Bas Nama Bar, they are my answer to those things. Because the person who sang this poem didn't make this distinction, so you will not understand the true import unless you make this separation, this barrier. The first 6 verses up to Bas Nama Bar are my words, but in fact I am expressing the feelings of Ahle Rabba. And from this verse onward, it's my response to those feelings. Now please play it. Are you ready?
Yes.
Or have you gone to sleep?
बटे हो मेरे हबीब बनवासियों की याद में क्या होंगे घर उदास, जितना के बन के वासियों का मन उदास है। ताहिर के बाद उसका नशे मन उदास है। पैगाम रहेंगे मचकन उदास।